This happened a few weeks ago. I'm 32 now and just moved back to my small hometown in the hills to help my mom. I'm a school counselor, so returning to this place felt odd. I thought I had left it all behind, but now I'm faced with memories I'd rather forget. One stormy night I heard something coming from the attic. Soft melodies drifted down, lullabies that felt familiar yet out of place. I thought it was just the wind playing tricks, so I tried to ignore it. But as the days turned into weeks, odd things started happening in my old house. Shadows flickered in the corners of my eyes. I felt a chill every time I walked past my childhood room. I found strange writing in my old journal, notes I didn't remember writing. I felt like I was being watched. Maybe it was just my mind breaking down from stress. I couldn't be sure. Then I learned about the family that vanished when I was a kid. They lived just down the road. I grew up knowing them but could never quite understand what happened. Maybe it was just a sad story everyone talked about, or maybe it was more than that. Now I find myself questioning everything. I want to believe it's just memories haunting me. I think I'm going crazy. But something tells me that there's more to this place than I ever realized. As I lay in bed one night trying to fall asleep, the melodies returned. They were softer now, almost comforting. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I pulled the covers tighter around me. I kept waiting for the sound to stop, but it just got louder, echoing in my ears. I could feel my heart racing, pounding in my chest. And then I felt it. A presence in the room with me. I turned to look, but nothing was there. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just lay there, frozen. Was it a ghost? My mind? I couldn't tell anymore. Finally, I mustered the courage to rise and confront whatever was making that sound. I stepped into the hallway. The air was heavy. I felt every step, like I was walking through molasses. My heart beat in my throat, and I hesitated. I approached the attic door slowly, my hand trembling. I pushed it open just a crack and the music stopped. Silence filled the space. My skin prickled as I stepped inside. Then I saw it. A figure in the corner, just out of reach, watching me. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was. An old child sitting on a dusty trunk. She wasn't just an illusion. She looked like me, but sadder and dirtier. Suddenly I was struck with a question. Was I truly back in my childhood home to face my past, or was it my past that was finally coming for me? Then it whispered a name I hadn't heard in years. I felt the air become heavier as the name slipped from her lips. It was my name, but it didn't sound like mine. It was twisted and breathed out like a secret meant only for the dark. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs, and for a moment, I couldn't move. Fear froze me on the spot. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely more than a whisper. The figure just stared at me, her eyes wide and glimmering like glass marbles. There was a sadness in her gaze that struck me harder than any fear could. I took a step back, but before I could turn away, she spoke again. "You forgot." Her voice was soft, yet it resonated in the stillness of the attic. "You forgot everything." The shadows around her seemed to twist, pulling at her form, making her appear even more ghostly. I felt a rush of memories bubble up in my mind, things I thought I had locked away, moments of laughter, screams in the night, whispers that curled in the dark corners of my childhood home. I clutched my arms tighter around myself, my skin crawling with the sensation of being trapped between two worlds. Without thinking, I darted back toward the stairs. I had to get away from her, but just as my foot hit the first step, the attic door slammed shut. I gasped and turned back, heart racing, panic flooding my veins. The figure wasn't sitting anymore. She stood now, arms outstretched toward me. "You have to remember," she cried. "It was us." I didn't know what she meant, but the urgency in her voice made my legs move. I banged my fists against the attic door, yelling for help that I knew wouldn't come. My mom was downstairs, fast asleep, oblivious to the horror unfolding just above her. That's when the room dimmed, plunging me into a deep shadow. I closed my eyes, feeling tears slide down my cheeks as I waited for the darkness to swallow me whole. The distant echoes of lullabies filled the space again, and suddenly the pressure lifted. The door creaked open slowly, as if inviting me back into the world below. Without looking back at the figure, I bolted down the stairs and into the hallway. I threw open my childhood room door, slamming it behind me. I leaned against it, breathing heavily as I tried to process what had just happened. Then I noticed. My old journal lay on the desk, open as if someone had been reading it. The writing inside was different from before, words scrawled across the page that looked familiar, but felt foreign. "Find the key," it said. "Remember us." Sitting on my bed, the terrifying weight of it all sank in. I hadn't understood the past, but it seemed it was reaching out for me now. My heart tangled with confusion, fear, and a flicker of determination. I had to find that key. I had to know what really happened. So I steeled myself, knowing that whatever dark history my hometown held was about to come into sharp focus. As I turned to search, the attic door creaked once more. I glanced back, and I could have sworn I saw the child watching me again, just a flicker of white against the dark. This time, she was smiling. But it wasn't a comforting smile. It felt like a warning. I hurried to the closet. I would not let the shadows consume me. I had to face whatever came next. The next morning I woke up with a jolt. My heart was racing, but this time I wasn't in the attic. I was safe, I told myself. The sunlight streamed through my window, illuminating the dust in the air, and I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the remnants of the nightmare. But it was not just a nightmare. I could still feel the weight of the figure's gaze. She was real, and whatever she wanted from me felt pressing, urgent. I got out of bed and wandered into the kitchen. My mom was there, sipping her coffee and reading the newspaper. I didn't know how to tell her what had happened. How could I even begin to explain a haunted attic and a little girl who claimed to know me? "Morning, honey," she said, glancing up with a smile. "Did you sleep okay?" Yeah," I mumbled, unsure of how to respond. I poured some cereal and took a seat at the table, avoiding her eyes. I needed a plan. I needed to go back to that attic, but the thought terrified me. What if she was still there? "Are you sure you're all right?" My mom's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "You seem distant." "I'm fine," I said quickly. "Just, tired." "I suppose you were up late," she said, shifting her focus back to the newspaper. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. At least for now, she didn't seem to sense the storm brewing inside me. After breakfast, I grabbed my journal and headed back upstairs. I needed to figure out what the key meant and why it was so important. As I sat on the floor by my closet, digging through old boxes filled with memories, I stumbled upon photo albums. Flipping through the pages, I found pictures from my childhood. There were snapshots of birthday parties, school plays, and family trips. But what caught my eye were the photos of me with other children. I didn't recognize most of them. Their faces sent a shiver down my spine. That's when I saw it. A photo of the girl, the one from the attic. She stood there, unassuming, holding my hand. I could feel my breath hitch. The date written on the bottom sent a jolt of recognition through me. Summer 2003. Suddenly I remembered whispers of a tragedy. My mom had mentioned something once about a child who went missing in our town years ago. An accident? A secret? My stomach churned as I thought about it. Was this girl connected to that? I tucked the photo back into the album, heart racing. I couldn't just sit here, I had to find answers. The attic called to me again, and I felt an adrenaline rush that drowned out my fear. Just then, a knock on my door startled me. "Hey, it's me," my mom said. "Can I come in?" Just a minute," I shouted back, trying to calm the wild thoughts in my head. I leaned against the desk, trying to catch my breath. Whatever was coming, it felt close. As I finally opened the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was running out of time. "I need to go somewhere," I blurted out. "Where?" My mom frowned, looking concerned. "I just need some space," I said, backing away. I had to go back up there, back to the attic. I had to find the key before the girl came back. As I turned to leave, I thought I heard the faint echoes of laughter behind me, familiar yet unsettling. It was the same laughter from my dreams, a chilling reminder. Whatever was waiting in the shadows was not done with me yet. I hesitated at the foot of the stairs, my heart thudding loudly in my chest. The attic door loomed above me, a gateway to so many unanswered questions. I took a deep breath and climbed the stairs slowly, my palms sweaty against the banister. Each step felt heavier than the last. As I reached the top, I paused. The hallway was quiet, but an unsettling chill crept down my spine. I could almost feel her presence, like the air had shifted around me. "It's just your imagination," I whispered to myself, trying to shake off the fear. But deep down I knew I had to face this. I pushed the attic door open, and a creak echoed in the stillness. The room was dim, lit only by slivers of sunlight breaking through the cracked window. Dust floated in the air like tiny spirits. I took a hesitant step inside, straining to hear anything, but all I could hear was the soft thud of my own heart. I glanced around the cluttered space, old furniture and boxes stacked haphazardly. There was something almost alive about the attic, an energy that prickled at my skin. I rushed toward the corner where I had seen her before. My eyes scanned the boxes for the key. That's when I saw it. The key sat on a small table, glinting in the light. It was the same antique key I had found before, but now it seemed to pulse with an urgency of its own, as if it wanted me to pick it up. I felt an instinctive pull towards it, but the idea of touching it made me hesitate. Just as I was about to reach for it, I heard a soft giggle from behind me. My heart dropped. I turned around, ready to face whatever waited. But there was nothing, just the heavy silence of the attic. I felt my breath quicken, and I backed away from the table. "Hello," I called out, my voice shaky. There was no response, just the eerie quiet that enveloped me. I was about to turn back to the key when I noticed it. The floorboards creaked in a rhythm, almost as if they were trying to tell me something. I knelt down, placing my ear to the floor. The giggle came again, clearer this time. It echoed through the wooden boards, mixed with whispers I couldn't quite make out. My hair stood on end. This was no joke. Something was here with me. Panic surged, and I scrambled to my feet. I needed to get out, but just as I turned, the door slammed shut behind me, locking me in. I tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. My heart raced as I pressed my back against the wall, eyes darting around the room. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice trembling. Seconds felt like hours, and I could feel the cold sweat trickling down my back. I had to focus. I remembered the key. I needed answers, and maybe it was the only way. Gathering my courage, I approached the table once more. The key looked so inviting yet foreboding. As my fingers brushed against it, a sudden rush of memories flooded my mind. I saw glimpses of the girl laughing, playing, but it twisted into a vision of darkness, terrifying and chaotic. I snatched the key in my hand just as the whispers grew louder. "Find me," a voice echoed in my mind. But it wasn't just the girls. It was deeper, older. In that moment I understood. Finding out who she was could lead me deeper into the shadows than I had ever imagined. With a newfound resolve, I turned to face the door again, heart racing. No turning back now. I twisted the doorknob, and this time it turned. As I stepped through the threshold, I heard her laughter once more, ringing in my ears. I was being pulled into a mystery far larger than I had anticipated. The attic wasn't just a space. It was a door to something I still didn't understand, and I was about to find out just how deep that rabbit hole went. The moment I stepped back into the hallway, the laughter faded, leaving an echoing silence that felt heavier than before. I looked around, half expecting her to be right there, but there was nothing. Just dim light filtering through dusty windows. I took a shaky breath and made my way back down the stairs. I had the key now, but it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a weight, like I had invited something dark into my life. As I reached the bottom step, I hesitated. The living room looked ordinary, but the air felt thick. Shadows loomed in corners, stretching as the late afternoon light shifted. I glanced at the old grandfather clock. The ticking seemed louder, punctuating the tension in the silence. I moved towards the front door, but the pull of the key in my pocket was too strong. What did it unlock? Where was it leading me? I could feel my heart racing again as I thought about the attic. I needed more information. I needed to know who the girl was and why she was reaching out to me. I decided to go through my parents' old boxes stored away in the basement. Maybe there was something there. The basement was typically off limits, but I felt drawn to it now, as if it held more secrets. I made my way toward the door leading down to the basement, my mind racing with questions. I hesitated, hand on the doorknob. What if I didn't like what I found? I took a deep breath and turned it. The wooden door creaked open, revealing a set of steep stairs leading into darkness. I flipped the light switch, and a flickering bulb illuminated the narrow space. The basement was cluttered with forgotten furniture and boxes piled carelessly against the walls. Dust settled everywhere, and the musty smell wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I picked a box at random and pried it open. Old photographs and scattered papers lay inside. I rifled through them, searching for anything that might hint at the girl. I found pictures of my parents when they were younger, laughing and full of life. But as I sifted through the memories, I stumbled upon something else. A small journal, yellowed with age, tucked away in the bottom of the box. Curiosity surged. I brushed the dust off the cover and opened it. The writing was tiny but legible. It belonged to my grandmother. As I read, my heart sank. She wrote about a little girl who had once lived in the house, someone who had gone missing decades ago. The girl had loved to play in the attic. The entries spoke of odd occurrences, laughter in the night, shadows moving on their own, and whispers in the dark. Then I got to a particularly chilling part. I hear her calling, my grandmother had written. She isn't gone, not really. She wants to be found. A cold shiver ran down my spine. The girl, the whispers. My fingers trembled as I turned the page. But just as I did, the sound of shuffling came from the corner of the basement. I froze. Had someone else come down? "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. Silence filled the space, but I could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching me. Then everything went dark. The light bulb flickered and died, plunging me into complete darkness. I was about to panic when I heard it, the soft giggle right behind me. The giggle echoed in the darkness, sending a jolt of adrenaline through me. I had to stay calm. Panic wouldn't help. I slowly turned, squinting into the inky blackness. "Is anyone there?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. Silence answered me. I took a cautious step back, feeling the cold concrete beneath my feet. I reached into my pocket, fingers brushing against the key. Whatever this was, I had to face it. The journal had mentioned the girl and that she wanted to be found. But was I ready to uncover whatever truth lay hidden in that attic? My breath quickened. "I'm not afraid of you," I whispered, even though I wasn't sure I believed my own lie. I needed light. I felt my way along the wall, searching for the light switch again, but my fingers found only cold, rough wood. The giggle rang out again, closer this time, and my heart raced. Suddenly I caught movement from the corner of my eye. It was quick, almost like a shadow darting away from me. I spun around to follow it, but there was nothing, just the same oppressive darkness. A sudden wave of fear washed over me, and I stumbled back, my heel catching on an unseen object. I fell hard, scraping my palms against the floor. I gasped. "Who's there?" I shouted, trying to sound stronger than I felt. I pushed myself to sit up, breathless. The funhouse of childhood fears was becoming my reality, and the line between memory and nightmare was blurring. Then I remembered the journal in my hand, still open on my lap. Flipping through the pages, I pulled it closer to my chest for comfort. I desperately searched for something, anything that might give me guidance. My fingers brushed against a drawing that seemed to fall out, landing on the dusty floor. I fumbled for it, feeling the rough texture of the paper. When I finally retrieved it, I held it up to the faint light filtering in from the small window. It depicted the same girl I had seen in the attic, her eyes wide with mischief, a smile stretching across her face. Below the drawing, my grandmother had written, "She is a friend." A friend. But what kind of friend? Was she trying to help me, or was she playing with me in a way I didn't understand? As I pondered this, my mind flashed back to the whispering from before, the sense of being watched, the giggles creeping ever closer. I dropped the drawing, heart racing wildly in my chest. That's when I saw it. A long, thin shadow creeping across the floor towards me. It shifted and twisted, like fingers extending from the dark. I scrambled to my feet, the journal slipping from my grasp. "Stop!" I shouted. My voice felt small against the cacophony of silence that had now enveloped me like a suffocating shroud. The shadow paused. I took a step back. "What do you want?" I could hear my pulse pounding in my ears, drowning out everything else. I felt frozen, caught in a strange dance between fear and curiosity. I needed to escape the basement, but I was rooted to the spot. And then, just as I was about to bolt towards the stairs, the darkness melted away. A flicker of light flared to life, illuminating a figure standing in front of me. A little girl, with the same dark hair and bright eyes as in the drawing. "I found you," she whispered, and my entire world turned upside down. I blinked, trying to make sense of her sudden appearance. The light flickered softly around her, creating an eerie halo. "Who are you?" I stammered, my legs feeling like jelly beneath me. She took a small step closer, her ponytail swinging lightly. "I'm Lucy," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper, yet it sliced through the silence. "I've been waiting." Waiting for what? My mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of the journal again. The giggles, the shadow, the feeling of being watched. It all linked back to her. "Why were you laughing?" I asked, forcing my voice not to shake. Lucy's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Because it's fun to hide." She twirled in a small circle, her hands out like she was dancing in the attic. "You have to look for me, or else—" Her voice trailed off, and a shadow flitted across her face, making my stomach clench. "Or else what?" I pressed, finding a hint of strength in my fear. "Or else you might not make it back." There it was again, that thickening air of dread. My breath hitched. I glanced at the stairs. They felt miles away. "What do you mean?" My heart pounded, each beat echoing in my ears. I had to escape, yet I was anchored by this strange pull towards Lucy. It was as if she was both threatening and welcoming. She took another step. "You're already here. You have to find the truth." Her smile faded into a serious expression, and for a moment she looked almost older than her years. "The others." "The others." My voice came out as a whisper, too afraid of the answer. "Yes." She tilted her head like a curious bird. "They want to be found, too." Confusion clouded my thoughts. Was she referring to other spirits trapped like her? I remembered the journal again, the memories of whispered names and laughter that faded into silence. "What do you mean they want to be found?" I asked, slowly piecing it together. But before she could respond, the lights flickered again and a deep chill swept through the room. Lucy shivered, her expression shifting from playful to concerned. "You have to go, now, before they come." Panic surged in me. "Who? Who is coming?" "Those who don't want to be found." Her eyes widened, a mixture of fear and urgency that sent a shiver racing down my spine. "They won't let you leave if they see you." I didn't know what to do. Run or stay. My instincts screamed at me to get out. As I turned, determined to flee, the shadows around me thickened. I could feel something lurking just beyond the edges of the dim light. Something that wanted to keep me here. "Wait!" I spun back to Lucy, desperation clawing at me. "How do I—" But she was gone, disappearing into the shadows as though she had never been there at all. The light flickered one last time and darkness enveloped me once more. I stumbled backward, searching for a way out, the air growing heavier, almost suffocating. The giggles returned, echoing mockingly around me. Deep in my gut, I knew I had entered something that I couldn't simply walk away from. With urgency, I headed for the stairs, heart racing, and the darkness pressed in closer, urging me to stay. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever truth I was supposed to find was just out of reach, waiting for me. I stumbled down the stairs, the wooden steps creaking under my weight. Each noise felt like a shout in the quiet, a beacon that would draw the shadows closer. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see Lucy's glowing form behind me, but she was nowhere to be found. I didn't think the darkness could get thicker, yet it surrounded me, pressing down like a weight. At the bottom of the stairs, I hesitated. Sunlight seeped in from a small, grimy window, but it felt inadequate against the oppressive gloom of the attic. A part of me wanted to bolt out of that house, to leave this place of whispers behind forever. But another part clutched my thoughts tighter. What if Lucy was right? What if the truth was somewhere in this confounding darkness? As I stood frozen, I heard a noise from the corner of the room. A soft shuffle followed by the unmistakable sound of laughter. It was high-pitched and slightly off-key, sending chills racing down my spine. "Hello?" I called out, my voice breaking through the silence. No reply came, only that eerie giggle followed by the sound of something scuttling away, like a small creature retreating into hiding. My heart raced. I needed to be brave, to find out what was happening here. Stepping into the room, I scanned its corners, half expecting to see a face peeking out from behind a piece of furniture. Instead, I caught a glint on the floor, a small, faded locket. I knelt to pick it up, brushing dust off its surface. It felt surprisingly warm against my palm. When I opened it, my breath hitched. Inside was a picture of a girl who looked strikingly similar to Lucy. She had the same wide eyes and mischievous smile, but the girl in the locket looked more alive. My pulse quickened as pieces of a story began to form, tugging at the edges of my memory. "Lucy," I whispered, realization flooding through me. The locket must have belonged to her. But why was it here? Why was it cold, while the attic had felt so stifling? Suddenly a loud crash echoed through the house, shaking the floor beneath me. My heart lurched. Whatever had been hiding in the shadows was drawing closer, and I could feel it in the air. I slid the locket into my pocket, and with a rush of adrenaline, I darted towards the nearest door. Then everything went dark again. The sunlight disappeared completely, engulfed in an unnatural shadow. Panic rose as I stumbled in the pitch black, reaching out blindly for anything that might ground me. My breath came quick, and I fought against the clenching fear in my chest. "Get out! Get out!" I urged myself, the echoes of Lucy's warning replaying in my mind. But I couldn't see, couldn't tell where I was going. I squinted, straining to catch any glimmer of light. Then, as suddenly as the darkness had swept in, it receded. The dim space returned, but now it felt different, charged, as if it were alive. My eyes widened. That's when I saw it, a shadowy figure at the far end of the room, watching me with vacant eyes. My heart stopped and instinct kicked in. I turned to flee, only to realize that the door was now locked shut. It wouldn't budge, and whatever was behind me whispered my name, luring me further into the depths of fear. I stood frozen, panic wrapping around me like a heavy blanket. The whispers grew louder, swirling in my ears. "Come closer," they beckoned, silky but cold. I pressed my back against the door, desperate for it to magically open and swallow me into escape. But it stood solid, unyielding. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my flashlight, praying it would pierce the thick shadows. Flicking it on, the beam sliced through the gloom, illuminating the figure, a semblance of a girl, her features indistinct and blurred, as if she were made of smoke. I swallowed hard. "Please just leave me alone," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. The articulation felt weak, too fragile against that presence. The girl's head tilted, and for a moment she seemed to reconsider her approach. My heart plummeted as her mouth twisted into a grin, an expression devoid of warmth. It was mischievous, yet unsettling, like she delighted in my fear. "Lucy?" I called, hoping that maybe my sister could hear me, maybe she could help. The eerie figure flickered at the sound of her name, and my heart momentarily soared before plummeting once more as the girl began to glide toward me, moving unnaturally, like a puppet on strings. I twisted the doorknob again, willing it to open, but my efforts only fueled the sinister laughter echoing around me. The laughter was everywhere now, coming from every shadow, wrapping around me in loops. I closed my eyes, concentrating on that glinting locket in my pocket. Something in it felt like a tether to Lucy. In a burst of courage, I shouted, "Leave me alone, I'm not afraid of you." The words surprised even me. The figure hesitated, and for a fleeting moment I thought I glimpsed a shadow of regret in her eyes. But that vanished as quickly as it appeared. Then I felt a cold touch brush against my arm. I flinched and recoiled, instinct screaming at me to run. But the shadows were alive. They clawed at my ankles, tugging me back. The laughter morphed into soft whispers. "Stay with us. Stay." With adrenaline coursing through me, I decided to fight back. I raised the flashlight higher, trying to focus on the ghostly figure. "I have to go!" I shouted, swinging the beam toward her. Light burned into her darkness, and she shrieked, a sound filled with rage. In that chaotic moment, I noticed something on the floor, a small, dusty mirror reflecting the faint light. I threw myself toward it, thinking maybe it could show me a way out. I stumbled and almost fell, but caught myself just in time, hands grazing the cold glass. The moment my fingers touched it, a sharp jolt of energy coursed through me. The darkness around the room flickered, and I glimpsed images swirling in the mirror. Faces, voices, misty memories. Lucy's laughter blended with the shadows, and panic surged once more. "Lucy, where are you?" I yelled into the cacophony. The figure recoiled at my call, her laughter replaced with a low hiss. I could feel the walls closing in, the air thickening. As she began to reform, becoming a silhouette of angry shapes, I realized I had to act fast. I focused on the mirror, feeling its power pulse beneath my touch. If it could show me Lucy, maybe it could help me escape this nightmare. Before I could think twice, I yelled, "Show me!" My voice echoed, reverberating against the walls. Each beat felt like it might lose me my nerve. But something deep inside urged me to hold on to the hope that Lucy was out there, somewhere within this darkness. As the shadows closed in, I saw the figures in the mirror shift, coalescing, and amid the chaos her face emerged, brighter than anything in the murky room. The moment I locked eyes with her, I felt a surge of determination. I wasn't just going to escape, I was going to find her. But just as I felt that hope ignite, the figure lunged toward me, and I braced for impact. I braced myself as the figure lunged, and instincts kicked in. I twisted away just in time. I could feel the cold breeze of her presence rush past me as I lunged for the mirror. I pressed my palms against its surface, feeling that pulsating energy surge once more. The world around me warped. The attic spun, shadows flickering like dying candles, and I squeezed my eyes shut against the chaos. "Lucy, help me," I shouted, my voice a desperate plea against the despair closing in. I heard the whispering dark coalesce into a crescendo, pressing against my thoughts, trying to drown out my resolve. But then, a warmth enveloped me. A tidal wave of familiarity washed over my heart. Beneath the dizzying swirl of darkness and color, I heard her laughter, soft and inviting, cutting through the shadows. "Find me," it echoed, and suddenly, I could breathe again. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the basement. I stood in the attic, bathed in sunlight. The air was thick with dust, floating lazily in the golden light. The key was still in my hand, pulsing slowly, a heartbeat beneath my fingers. The laugh in my ears faded into a distant memory. I glanced around, searching for her, for Lucy. The figures were gone, leaving only an aching silence. "Lucy," I called out, breath catching in my throat. "Are you here?" My call echoed in the still attic, unanswered. Then, something caught my eye by the window. I stepped closer, heart pounding, and stopped frozen. A small white shadow wavered in the corner, flickering just out of focus. I squinted, searching. "Lucy." This time a small giggle rang through the air, a playful, haunting sound. I followed it, and there, flitting in and out of the light, was that familiar figure half hidden from sight. Each moment felt electric as I pushed forward, yearning to grasp that connection. "Lucy, please don't hide," I begged, desperation tinged with longing. I tightened my grip on the key, and in that instant I felt the weight of my grandmother's journal. "You wanted me to remember," I said, breaking the silence. "What do you want from me?" "Find me," her voice echoed again, pulling me like a tether. I realized this wasn't about escaping, it was about understanding. The attic shifted around me. and suddenly images filled my mind. Memories of laughter echoed, and the other children danced just beyond the periphery of my vision. I blinked, a wave of recognition washing over me. Their laughter wasn't just joyous, it was woven with sorrow, the lingering whispers of children lost too soon. "Are you all still here?" My voice quivered. The laughter rose, swirling around me, a bittersweet reminder of what was never resolved. The shadows coalesced, almost in sync with Lucy's presence, as if they were waiting for me to take a leap of faith, to unlock the truth that could either lead to freedom or a deeper darkness. "I need to find the others," I resolved, taking a bold step towards where I felt the whispers urging me. The connection tightened. I was no longer terrified. With each breath I felt the pull of the past, the urgency to uncover what had been lost. The shadows shimmered, enveloping me. I felt Lucy close, guiding me as I focused on the thickening air pulsing at the edge of visibility, ready to confront the mystery, both terrifying and tantalizing, spiraling around the remnants of their unfinished stories. But just as I readied to embrace whatever fate awaited me there, the light flickered. I stumbled back, heart racing wildly. Perhaps I hadn't truly escaped the darkness after all. There, looming at the threshold of the shadows, were eyes watching, insistent and unyielding. "Please," I whispered again, clinging to my newfound purpose, ready to delve deeper into the labyrinth. "Tell me who you are." I took a step forward into the swirling abyss, my resolve unshaken as I knew Lucy was guiding me. "You're never truly lost if you seek to find the truth." Time kept its relentless march. The veil of shadows awaited. I had questions, and while I was uncertain of the answers, I faced the hauntings of my past with my heart wide open, ready to uncover what lay beyond the veil that separated us all. As my pulse quickened, I felt hope curling inside me. A chance to bridge the gap, to understand, and perhaps rewrite the ending of a story left untold. And so, I stepped forward into the unknown, ready to unravel the tapestry of my memories, as the attic whispered secrets of shadows long held and laughter, just waiting to be released.